Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our second Pride stream. Thank you so much for tuning in again. If you've tuned in the past, you know how this works. Our artists perform, and then you ask them questions. Feel free to comment during the performances, support the artists, say hello, ask questions, anything. Everything is welcome. Today we have three new talented artists. They will each introduce themselves. Their names are Tom, Franky, and Ogunde. They will talk a little bit about themselves and then do a performance for you guys. So if you have any questions for specific artists, feel free to ask them right away. And if the artists see them right away, they will answer right away. Or if there are more general questions that you'd like to ask all three artists, you can also wait till the end once we go into our discussion section. As always, we have anonymous questions today, so we will ask those. And also, if you still would like to ask an anonymous question, make sure to message this page and I will ask it anonymously once we're in our discussion section. Otherwise, just feel free to comment, say hello, send reaction emojis, and applause for all the performances. We appreciate it all. And here we go. I would love to introduce our first performer, Tom. Here we go.
Buddy. I'm Tom Vendafreddo, and I'm so happy to be here tonight. Thank you, Julia, for curating these discussions and performances. I am in Chicago, Illinois right now, which is where I live, and I when life is not crazy like life is right now, I make my living as an actor, as a music director, a musician, conductor, teacher, all in the field of musical theater. So that is my passion, and it is what I do under normal circumstances. So I'm really, really grateful to have an opportunity to share in that world virtually right now, because obviously theaters are all shut down across the country and the world. And we'll be back making art live for live audiences soon enough. But I'm grateful to be here tonight and truly honored to share an LGBTQIA discussion with Julia and Ogunde and Franky. It's gonna be a really, really nice night. So I'm gonna start with a song that always means a lot to me, and I think to many in the gay and the queer communities, because a lot of us spend our life and parts of our day hiding who we are, code switching to talk to straight people. I spent years and years going to family parties where I had really macho, like butch cousins who I felt like I couldn't be who I was in front of them. And so we hide pieces of ourselves. And so this song is sort of a great reminder to just show your true colors and show who you are, because that is what makes you special. Take courage in a world full of people. You can lose sight of it, and the darkness inside you makes you feel so small. But I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid. Let them show your true colors. True colors are beautiful, oh, like a rainbow. Show me that smile then. Don't be unhappy, can't remember when I last saw you laughing. If this world makes you crazy and you're taking all you can bear, just call me up because you know I'll be there, and I'll see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors are beautiful, oh, like a rainbow. Such sad eyes. Take courage now and realize when this world makes you crazy and you're taking all you can bear, just call me up because you know I'll be there, and I'll see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors, true colors are shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors, true colors are beautiful, beautiful like a rainbow. Yeah, yeah. Show me your colors. Show me your rainbow. That's true colors. It'll never not be weird performing alone in my living room and imagining thunderous applause from my tens of fans. Okay, I have to do a little scene change because my next song, I'm not going to play piano for. I'm going to stand and sing and use a little Bluetooth speaker action for an accompaniment. So I don't want to say too much about this song, but I will say probably all you need to know is that I am playing the part of the son of a caveman. So we're back many, many, many moons ago, and I am talking to my dad, and we are in the caveman times. So the song is called Way Ahead of My Time. Let's see how I do here. Today's the day your son becomes a man, Papa. Today he claims a mate and joins the clan, Papa. Or that's what you'd expect from any son who walks erect. Well, I'm sorry, but I've got a different plan, Papa. I'm not like the other cavemen. Mother Nature gave men a brain, but for most of them it's all in vain. They got no reason or rhyme. Undeniably, I'm way ahead of my time. Remember when you took me hunting for mastodon? How at first I nearly fainted, then I went right home and painted. People saw my sketch and learned the story and passed it on, 'cause it was plastered on the wall for the glory of us all. With a spear in hand, I fear I'm ineffectual, but I just might be the world's first Homo sapien who's an intellectual. I'm not like the other cavemen, all the gruff and grave men you meet like to hunt and grunt and eat raw meat. They seem at home in the grime. Undeniably, I'm way ahead of my time. Remember when the days were chilly and Pleistocene? How you made me those pajamas from the skin of woolly mammoths. Only nowadays it's not so frozen and Pleistocene. It might be nice to have new clothes in a style that I'll propose. Now you know I'd never put myself in jeopardy, but I swear that I would look so cute in something sleek and leopardy, 'cause I'm not like the other cavemen. Can't you see I crave many things that a lowbrow lifestyle never brings? No chance for something sublime. Undeniably, I'm way ahead of my time. Now, I'm sick of all those dances with that ooga booga crap. If I could only show you some of the stuff I've got on tap. Oh, see me shine, Papa. Oh, I'm on fire. Oh, I'll tell you what fire means later. I'm not like the other cavemen, virtuous and brave men, no doubt, but the kind that I could do without. They got no reason or rhyme. Undeniably, I'm gonna have to say, Pa, can't you see I'm way ahead of my time? Oh my gosh. That song is so silly. Thank you all very much for indulging me. Perhaps throughout the course of our conversation, you'll hear myself or Franky or Ogunde talk about our coming out stories. And so I just love that song because it's sort of like, honestly, a very true representation of like my coming out experience. Like when you finally say like, I'm gonna tell my mom, or like, I'm gonna tell my sister, whoever it is, there's always like the like, okay, am I really gonna do it right now? Am I really gonna say it? I guess I'm really gonna, you know, and like that whole song is like 12 pages of just like trying to blurt it out. And then when the moment comes, like that person should just say it, he still like doesn't. Been there a long, long time ago, but I've definitely been there. Okay, well, thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully you'll stick around because the next performer I get to introduce is Franky Melendez.
Hello, can you hear me? I unmuted myself. Wow, that was so much fun. I was cracking up the whole time. That was definitely relatable. I was honestly getting like PTSD. I was like, oh, telling my life story. So let's see. I guess I should introduce myself. My name is Franky. Franky Melendez or Franky Doodle is fine. My pronouns are he, him, but I don't mind if you call me she, her, because, you know, who doesn't like to feel like a beautiful princess? Or at least I do. So let's see. I'm a dancer. I'm classically trained, and I'm trying to branch out to other forms of dance, which is why I moved to Chicago a year ago. I'm originally from the border, from the Mexican-American border. I'm from El Paso, Texas, next to Ciudad Juarez, Chihuahua. I was raised in Mexico for a little bit and then moved hopped right across the border. What else? I danced ballet there for a long time. And then, like I said, I'm here in Chicago now. Let's see. I was really excited to get invited to this live stream because I've had such a like long journey of like discovery, um, figuring out like even just figuring out that I was gay, like, oh my God, that was such a big step. And then, like, even then, it was like, okay, well, just because I'm gay, this doesn't mean I have to actually, like, you know, have any relationships with men. Because my family is super religious, like, hyper religious. My dad's technically like a priest. So I had like this like huge weight on my shoulders because I was supposed to be like, you know, take hold of like not just the like family business, but also like his like spiritual inheritance in a way, you know, to continue his path and all that. But yeah, I even actually like my coming out was kind of a big deal in my family. We actually even like, I don't know if a lot of people have heard of conversion therapy anymore. Like it's not something that people talk about anymore. But like even at the time that I came out, it was like starting to it wasn't as popular anymore. But since my dad was like getting desperate because it was like, oh, I need to fix my gay son. They like we looked for like therapists that might help with that. And it's like we ended up going to like an ex-gay camp, which was Exodus International. And it's funny because I actually got to go to the last year before they closed it or before they like shut it down. Um, so it's like I feel like I get to carry a little bit of like gay history with me. And thankfully at the time it wasn't like they had really mellowed down because I actually did a little bit of research. I had a boyfriend at the time, ironically, and I was gonna go to an escape camp, and and so like he helped me do like some research. He was really nice. He really backed me up, even though he's like my worst ex. But he yeah like we did some research, and Exodus had like they were like full on like gay conversion therapy before. Like they had classes where it was like they taught men how to be more masculine and girls how to be more feminine. But by the time I got there, like I said, they were like really nice. They had changed their message a lot. It was basically like, you know, if you're gay, like you can't change that. But it was still kind of like they still held on to that like, oh, just because you're gay doesn't mean you have to act on it, whatever. So in a way, it was like really helpful for me to get to experience that, like that positive side of like Christianity, where it's like they are accepting of you even though you're gay. But then it was also interesting to see how like they still expected you to, you know, conform to certain expectations of like gender and like societal roles or whatever. And it was like it was really interesting because like everybody who ran the organization was gay and they were all married with women, but they were all open about the fact that they were still attracted to men. And so anyway, that was like a formative experience for me. But enough about that, because I gotta show you my performance. So I'm gonna be performing um, a variation of The Dying Swan. And the reason I wanted to perform this is because the it's The Dying Swan and Swan Lake, which even though they're not related, they've always held like a special place in my heart because in ballet in general, I've always been drawn to it because of how like magical and ethereal the movement is. And I feel like as men, we don't get to express magic and beauty and grace. Um, and especially like I feel like the Dying Swan and Swan Lake are like these like peak expressions of like just femininity. Um, so I was really excited to see that there are other versions of the Dying Swan that are actually like for men. Because the Dying Swan is usually a point variation. And I did start taking point classes recently, but I'm nowhere ready. My poor toes. But yeah, I'm really excited to get to perform this variation for you guys. And just get to, like I said, express that kind of softness that men aren't usually allowed to in society. So yeah, whenever you're ready, Julia, here's my variation. Hi again. I hope you liked that. I had to edit that a bunch because I only have so much room in my apartment. So if you notice, I would like start from one side of the apartment and then like come back again. So there's a little video magic for you. With that said, it's my pleasure to introduce our next performer. give a warm welcome to Ogunde Snelling.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Franky. That was incredible. That was beautiful. And Tom, your performance literally made my niece cry. She just started crying out of nowhere, and she was like, "It's making my eyes water." She loves singing. She loves performing. She loved your performance. It was beautiful. But hi, yes, everyone. My name is Ogunde Snelling. I am 21 years old and currently going into my senior year at Ball State University with a major BFA acting. I actually am a part of this thanks to Julia. We did a show together at Maryville High School, Hunchback of Notre Dame, a few summers ago. It was so amazing, so much fun. It's been so great. Being a part of something like this. This is my first time ever doing something like this. And I think this cause is amazing and I love it. And I've always wanted to, with my future, with my talents, bring awareness and light to the LGBTQIA community and just being a person of color in the gay community, bringing more positivity to that because there's so much negative stigma towards that in every community. And I just think this is an amazing way to bring a positive light because it's nothing to be ashamed of, nothing to be, sad about, which was something I had to come to terms for a long time of my life, of even though I heard so much negativity towards being gay, and before I even knew what it meant to be gay, it just seemed like something bad. So for so many years, I inherently just felt bad about myself before I even really knew why, which is why for so long I've made it a point to have a personal journey with myself and my family and with my spirituality on knowing that I'm loved, I'm appreciated. There are people out there who will love me regardless, and it may not be your own family, but we as gay people are able to find our family and find those who love us unconditionally and surround ourselves with positivity, which is why I'm so glad we're able to do this and surround ourselves with positivity, love, understanding, even with those who don't understand, making a point to reach out and have oh, you can see my little kitty cat in the back. His name is Pumpkin. Hi, Pumpkin. But yeah, surround ourselves with love and positivity. And actually, the performance that I'm doing today is Land of Lola from Kinky Boots. And if you know me, you know I love Kinky Boots. It was one of my first times seeing a gay Black person, even though it was showing the pitfalls and the struggle, but also the love, the life, the type of mentality that you have to get through this world of seeing yourself better than you'll be seen when you walk into a room. Everyone will judge you as soon as you walk into a room. But if you are stable in yourself and love yourself and know yourself, you're able to show people what they already blocked themselves off to see. And so, without further ado, I'll get on with the performance. Land of Lola from Kinky Boots. Of course, I have to have my boots, so we'll get started here in a second. I want to make sure you get to hear. Leave expectations at the door. Just let your eyes explore my cinematic flare from my boots to derriere. I've got a lacy silken feel, with arms as hard as steel. I am freedom, I'm constriction, a potpourri of contradiction. Leave that humdrum place of glum behind. Once you walk inside these doors, you're mine. Now let me blow your mind. I like to there. And bam, here I am. Yes, ma'am, I am Don't be embarrassed. I like being looked at, and you like to look. I know a way to make us both happy. Oh! Got you drew out yourself there with moves of press stare. I'm Black Jesus, I'm Black Mary, up this marriage flags are hairy. I'm your cocoa butter bitch, not just cookie cutter kitsch. I provide the unexpected with a prize that's undetected. Let's roll up, lift you to your highest high. Let's explore your flight of fancy tonight. I am gonna treat you right, then let you down. And bam, here I am. Yes, ma'am, I am. Lola. Am I too sweet? Ooh, that's me, Anthony. I am. Lola. Step into a dream. Your plan is extreme. Welcome to my fantasy. We get good epiphany. Step into a dream. Well, that is extreme. Welcome to my fantasy. We get good epiphany. So come and take my hand and welcome to the land of Lola. Say my name. Oh, Lola. So come and take my hand and welcome to the land of Lola. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, so also wanted to do a quick shout out, Makeup and Lips by Leban's Beauty. It is a Black-owned makeup business that will be launching next week. I'll put the website in the description and you can go and check it out. And now I think I'll give it back over to Julia. Thank you.
All right, that was amazing. Thank you so much, you guys, for sharing your talents. That was great. I mean, I saw Franky's video before because we pre-recorded that one, but still I was watching like, wow, you guys are so like, just thank you for doing this. This is like I'm watching from my garage here, and it's like you're on stage and I'm in the audience and I'm literally like, whoa. So thank you for that. For those watching, again, thank you so much for tuning in. I saw some anonymous questions come in now. And just, I know not everybody wants to put their names out there, but if you have just like a general question or like a comment of support, feel free to put it in the comments. We're not gonna be mad at you for asking questions, but if you don't feel comfortable asking in person per se, of course, send the anonymous questions. Also, tonight we're raising money for an amazing charity, Affinity Community Services. And if you look in the comments section, at least that's how it's appearing on the phone, at the bottom you'll see a donate button. So if you're able to donate anything at all, we'd appreciate it. $1, $5, $1,000, whatever you're able to. If you can't, that's okay too. We just appreciate you tuning in. And of course, if you don't know what the charity is about, feel free to check them out. They're amazing. If you can just maybe share their page in support, we'd appreciate that as well. So now we're on to our discussion section section of the video. So if anybody has any questions, put them down in comments and we will answer them as they come. We usually start with some anonymous questions just to keep things going. And just an FYI for those who are watching for the first time, the questions, the anonymous questions that come in, we usually read them as is, so nothing is modified. The people send them, and the way they send them, I read them that way. Just the purpose of that is to show everybody what kinds of questions we still get, because most anonymous questions are sometimes not very nice, if I could put it that way. So I will read them as they are without any modification, just so you guys can see what type of questions we still get. And also, once again, if you have any questions, put them down in comments. We'd love to hear from you. Or if you just like performances, the artist performances, make sure to let them know because I'm sure they'll appreciate the virtual applause. All right, so, oh, well, we have a lot of people commenting great performances, fantastic performances. So thank you so much, audience, and thank you so much, artists. I guess we'll start with the anonymous questions to start things off. I believe, well, most of you guys have touched on this in your intros, but somebody actually asked if you could share your coming out experiences or stories or like anything you would like to share. If you want to tell the whole story, how it happened, then do that, or like any comments or experiences. And feel free to go in any order, whoever wants to go first.
They're looking at me. You know, I'm laughing because Julia, you put a post up for this like yesterday or something, and you said like, we'll be having an intergenerational or like a multi-generational discussion. And I realized in that moment that in this panel, I am the old man. And I'm not that old, but I'm definitely a little older than these other two cherubs. So they're like, go first, go first.
Well, the
okay.
generational one is happening next week, actually. So I'm not suggesting that you're like old.
In that case, I'm the youngest person on tonight's panel, and I would be thrilled to go first. That's hilarious. All right, good. I'm glad because I was like, whoa. No, but it is interesting because I feel like Franky touched on this a little bit earlier. The first phase for me was discovering it about myself. Like, I didn't grow up in a time period which wasn't that long ago, but I did not grow up in a time where there were gay characters on TV, in movies, that we were talking about gay rights and gay people on the news. I didn't go to school I went to Catholic school, kindergarten through 8th grade. So like the idea of like meeting another gay person or a person like me that could be open and out about it there was out of the question. Even in high school, when I was in high school in the early 2000s, it was something like very, very hush hush. All of that to say, like, society was leading me towards like, you will date and marry a woman and you will have children and a family, and that's how the world works. So it was like a process of, you know, like I think of, if I can say this, like a time when, you know, I had two brothers growing up. So like there were some dirty magazines that might have floated across the house, you know, at times. And like, just like realizing that what the guys that were looking at that magazine were focusing on and what I was focusing on, like, so different. And I remember we first got internet in our house, you know, and it was like, oh, the internet, you can literally find anything you want. And I was like, why am I finding or looking for these things that seem like different than the things that maybe my brother was looking for? And I told myself then, it's probably just a phase. I would tell myself that in my head, like, oh yeah, it's probably just temporary. Like, I'm not that stressed about it, but like, it's definitely different. But I'm definitely straight, you know, dated girls in high school. And then finally senior year was like, wait. Like, I've been watching Will and Grace for a few years now. And like, I am like Will and I am like Jack, like, you know, finally going like, wow, no, I'm gay. So the first part was like almost coming out to myself. And then the second part is, okay, then when is the appropriate time to like share that with my siblings, my family, my parents, etc. And so that happened throughout my senior year in high school and my first year in college, where I felt comfortable having those conversations. And that's the short version of the story, because the short part of my story, because I was really lucky. Every single person that I came out to, family, friends, and otherwise, were more than happy for me, proud of me for being brave enough to say it, wishing me, you know, like luck and love, and saying like, you know, I love you and that won't change my opinion for you. And then going to college and being able to start a life fresh as an openly gay person, where it wasn't, I went to a music conservatory, the Easton School of Music. So like being gay was not even a topic of conversation, you know, it was like, of course, that's great, love it. And, but I realized then that I had several friends who were gay and in college and whose parents were threatening to cut them off, to take away their cell phone and not pay for their cell phone bill, or stop paying their tuition. Or, you know, I was very, very lucky in my experience. And I realized in college, when I could compare myself to others, that many other people are not as lucky as I was. So my coming out experience was sort of rainbows and butterflies in a sense. And I recognize that privilege, and I recognize that, that blessing, that like I had the best possible situation. So that's my story in a nutshell.
I'll go next. I used to wish that, oddly, coming up, I used to think, oh, I feel like I'm such an old soul. I feel like I was born in the wrong generation. I wish I was born a little earlier. But clearly, as I grew up, I started to realize I'm actually very thankful in the time that I grew up, because there were a little bit more gay characters on screen. There was a little bit of representation, and of course now, like, more people making strides to be more accepting. But when I was coming up, I was just a very sweet, naive little boy, loved everybody, loved women. Like, the relationship that I had with girls coming up, I was like, why do I always just love hanging around girls? Like, girls are so much nicer, so much more accepting. Like, I don't have to be afraid of being myself around women. So I found a solace in the power that women held of acceptance and love, and just, you know, they have struggles that they go through as well, that they have to fight through. And there was just something that drew me to that, because I felt like there were so many guys who were not being true to themselves. And there, especially in the Black community, there's such a problem with hypermasculinity. And I was just not, I like didn't want to subscribe to that. It was, even though I loved acting, the first thing I fell in love with was The Wizard of Oz, and Judy Garland was my everything. So I was like, there's just a difference. I don't want to watch basketball. I want to watch The Wizard of Oz. Like, so from a very young age, I knew I was very different. I was such a mama's boy. I wanted to be with all the adults, and my mom and my aunt and my grandma and my cousins. And I grew up with a bunch of women. So I definitely feel like I had a different coming up. I always felt a lot of love and acceptance from my mom and my family. So it somehow made it harder to come out, because I was like, I don't want to disappoint them. I don't want to ruin what we have, not realizing they knew. It's just when I came out to my mom, her biggest thing was she was more sad, and she like started crying. She was more sad that I was gonna have a hard life being Black and gay, growing up with all those hardships, and she just didn't want to see her son go through that. But there was still love and support, and it wasn't as such a big deal as I thought it was. But it kind of made navigating through relationships kind of very difficult, and finding just where I stood with certain people and friends. And when I started to, you know, find attractions to people, and really navigating being so sweet and wanting to love on people, and realizing that not everyone has that same mentality. And so, like, with the few guy friends that I had, I was like, okay, I like these guys. They're really nice to me, but it's in a different way. And I don't think it's in the same way that they, you know, like me. So it was a lot of coming to terms with being brave in my endeavors and in my relationships, which I feel like it's so much harder to navigate through life. And school is like a breeding ground for people. That's where people find their relationships, and a lot of people end up going back to those people and marrying those people. And for me, I was just like, am I gonna be lonely for the rest of my life? Like, is that what it's gonna be? But I don't know, as I got older, I realized that I was a lot more mature at a young age of wanting to realize who I was and be comfortable and wanted to be bold and not wanting to hide that. And that kind of came off as intense to some people. And just walking into a room and wanting to unapologetically be myself sometimes take people aback because they expect you to want to shy away and be quiet in the corner. And that's not the type of person I was never that person. So that really, around 7th or 8th grade, I literally stopped and looked at myself and was like, I don't want to fake this anymore. Like, I'm tired of lying to people when I know they know the truth. Like, it's time to just speak my truth, one person at a time, and try to get more comfortable with that and comfortable with myself and find the type of person that I am. And of course, being more on the feminine side, it didn't hide it from anyone. So I was like, let me not be delusional, and I'm gonna, take this and run with it and see where that takes me. And wanting to express myself through my clothes and my hair and not wanting to be, do what boys should do. I feel like do what you want to do. Clothes shouldn't have a gender. Hairstyles shouldn't be restricted for certain people. I want to express myself in the way that I want. And that's something that I want to showcase in, like with my nieces. They may always say, oh, boys don't do that, or boys don't get hair like that. And I try to teach them, boys and girls, as long as they're not hurting anyone and they're happy, they can do what they want. This is okay for boys. This is okay for girls. Don't let anyone at school tell you you can't play with this, you can't do that, you can't wear this, because you can express yourself in any way that makes you happy, as long as it's not hurting you or anyone else. And I think the best thing that we can do is try to teach the leaders of the future a better way, because so many people have already been corrupted by what they've been taught, because it's something that's taught to you. But if we can try to unteach and just teach children the right way, how to love, how to be accepting, how to not let fear equate to being unsafe. Just because you're scared doesn't mean you're safe. If you don't understand it, try to. Don't just shove it off as something that you should shun or that someone should not be proud of just because you don't understand it. Yeah. I don't know, I feel like I've gone long-winded, but yes, that's me. Franky?
Sorry, I totally pushed you guys to go first. But that's mostly because my coming out story is still ongoing in a way. So everyone has those phases of coming out, and so many of those took so long for me, longer than most people. And like I said, in a way, it's still ongoing because my family knows I'm gay, but that's my close, my nuclear family or whatever. But my cousins, my uncles, all that, it's I'm sure they know, but it's I feel like it's one of those unspoken family secrets kind of things, because I haven't come out to any of them. Because if I were to come out to any of them officially, it would be I would ruin my parents' reputation or something. Because again, my dad is a spiritual leader, and so it's he literally told, one of the worst things that my dad has ever told me was he's super hyper religious, he believes in demons and stuff like that. And so he was this is happening to you because they're trying to get to me, because they're trying to ruin me. And I was just wow, that's such a terrible thing to tell your son, that he has that demons are influencing him in order to get to him. You know what I mean? It's wow. But I mean, let's see. I have notes because I knew I was gonna get lost in thought. Oh well, because my family is so religious. I didn't even have like a sexuality until like literally senior year of high school. Because like kids start to like find out about sex or whatever, and it's like, oh, I have a crush on so and so. But it's like my family. Well, because I was gay, I was like, I just can't seem to like any girls, like I don't know, I'm just gonna end up having to wait until I find the one. And so it was like, but because like sexuality was just so like it was just not talked about in my household, it was like I didn't know what sex was in high school. Like, can you believe it? But then I had like finally I had this crush on I had a crush on a guy, and it was like my first like real crush. Like I finally realized what these feelings are. Um, and it was like, oh, like so that's what I've been feeling for like this other guy in like middle school, or it's like I finally came to this realization of what my feelings were, and it was because he was gay, and I was like, oh my gosh, like maybe these feelings that I have for him are like like feel like gay feelings. um but then it was like, again, like just because I'm gay doesn't mean I have to act on it, right? Because I'm like a Christian. I'm a godly person. Um, like I said, I had kind of been keeping it to myself. I was like praying to God every day. I was like literally emulating Jesus in every way I could. But then I was talking to one of my friends about like these feelings, newfound feelings that I had, like my best friend, on Facebook on the family computer. And it was so stupid because I just left my Facebook open with the messages there because nobody ever used the computer except me. And then my sister got on it, and then she like read my messages, and then she told my dad, and it was like this big old thing. And it was like a big thing, but it was like, this is going to be our secret. We're not going to tell your mom because this will crush her. So it was like, it's like, even though it's like, technically I'm out to my dad and my sister, like it's still a big secret and you can't tell anybody because it'll like, so it was like shame. And like I said, we spent like some time looking for a therapist to help me like cure my homosexuality, and then went to Exodus. And like at that point, my mom like knew, I guess, but it was like, no, we never talked about it. The only person that talked about that stuff was in my family was my dad. And like, let's see, make the story short. I finally kind of just came to terms with it. I had to do a lot of like soul searching, like literally spiritually speaking, but also just a lot of like learning a lot about the Bible, about its history. What do these like anti-gay verses actually mean? Where do they come from? And even then, it was like I didn't talk about it with my family at all because again, it was like this unspoken thing that it was like, okay, well, we all know that you have these like, feelings, but that doesn't mean you're acting on it. And there was like rules. We had rules in my house where I couldn't have any gay friends over, any gay people over whatsoever. That was really embarrassing. I also went through a phase where I was an adult in college, and my parents put up an internet blocker so that I wouldn't be able to access like any gay stuff or whatever, and I was like, I'm like in my 20s and I can't use the internet because of the nanny blocker or whatever. So yeah, just to give you a taste of like what I went through. Um, and like I said, it's still kind of ongoing because literally like a year or two ago, I had this conversation with my sister where I was like, she kind of told me, she kind of like tried to scold me about like, oh, you never talk with mom and dad, blah blah blah. And it was like, I felt like I was really unfair because it was like, you're like pushing them away, and I was like, me? Like, I'm the one that's pushing you away when you guys have been shaming me, you know, for like who I am for years. And like, you know, and it was just like a really, so I explained to her as calmly as I could, because I was really upset, that like I was the one that was afraid of getting too close to them because they had hurt me so much, that I had to physically separate myself from them. And because I would talk to them like once a month. Um, and it's still kind of like that, but we're working on it. We're kind of working on our relationship right now. But it's still like a, you know, don't talk about it. And I mean, one of the things that I mentioned to my sister is that part of why I was so afraid also is that my sister has 2 kids now. Um, and one of the very first things before I even came out, but last, you know, I was in high school and I was like, oh, like I told my dad that like I thought I saw a gay kid at school because I'd never even heard of a gay person before. And he would, then he brought up his Bible verse and he was like, you know, here it says that, uh, you know, he basically just told me like, when you become gay, you start to slowly get corrupted, and like not only are you gay, you start to become a thief, you start to become a pedophile, blah blah blah. And so like, ironically, like that's still something that I'm like carrying, um, and I feel like, and I'm mentioning it even though I'm going on for really long. I'm sorry, because I feel like a lot of like right now we're going through like this very like pride, be proud of yourself, blah blah. But for those of us that have come through these households, there's a lot of what we call like internalized homophobia. But I think it's also just like this shame and this like, for me it's like fear of becoming that like monster. And it's like I literally have to like, it's been hard for me to build a relationship with like my niece. And I worked at a ballet school and I always kept myself like at a distance, like literally and physically like a distance from like from children, because like I grew up in this, you know, household where it was like gay people are pedophiles. And so it's like there's this part of me that's like, I don't want anybody to think that I'm a pedophile. And it's like now I'm starting to see like the like how damaging that was, because it's like I have a niece and a nephew and I'm scared of forming a relationship with them because I'm scared that somebody's gonna think it's sexual, or you know. So yeah, that's like my ongoing coming out story.
Wow, Frankie, thank you so much for sharing that. I can't even imagine how hard that must have been to live through and to share it on a live video too. So thank you so much. And of course, thank you, Tom and Ogunde. All right, let me just like get over that now because Frankie, you're like, I was, whew, okay. We have a question from an audience member. Matthew Walsh is saying, great job, everyone. You are all incredibly gifted entertainers. I saw Hunchback and it was terrific. Well, Hunchback was only me and Agandi, but thank you, Matthew. Okay, my question, you mentioned gay conversion camps, which makes me sick to even think that those exist. And my question is, even though religion has clearly proven itself to be very against being gay, would you still consider yourself a religious person? And I'm guessing you maybe all 3 of you guys can answer that. I'm not sure if that was specifically for Frankie, but if whoever feels like answering, go ahead.
I guess I'll go first since I'm the one that mentioned conversion therapy. I'm gonna be totally honest. I don't consider myself a religious person anymore. I didn't want to mention this because I didn't want to poison the well. But I'm actually an atheist now, and like I actually consider myself a satanic atheist. And I mean that doesn't mean that I worship the devil or anything. It's just like it's just like a specific branch of atheism that kind of um, takes a more active role in kind of pointing out the harms of Christianity in particular. because we're in the U.S. Christianity is obviously like the mainstream religion, and there's a lot of power that that religion holds in this country, and so much so that that's part of why homosexuality took so long to be able to, like, for gay marriage to pass, and that's literally what Trump is using to ban trans people from the military and try to push all these kind of like homophobic and transphobic um, legislature. And so I felt like that's kind of what, put me in that position where it's like, now I feel like there has to be some kind of like pushback. And what I like about it specifically is that it's like, I mean, because in a way, a lot of the things that, sorry, I don't want to go on for too long, but so that's my short answer. I don't really consider myself religious anymore, but I came to this position by a lot of research, a lot of soul searching. Like I said, it's not something that I decided on a whim. It literally took me years. So yeah.
I grew up Christian non-denominational in my household, and there was a long time where, of course, I was hearing, you're going to hell, not from my family or from people at church, but from people at school. Children can be very, very rude, very mean. And so there was a long time where I was like, I don't understand how God could hate me. Like, I love going to church. I go to church every Sunday. I love singing with the choir. Like, gospel music was my jam. Like, I felt spiritually connected to God. And it took me a long time to realize that my mom instilled in me at a very young age that God, everyone has God in their heart, and God loves his children. And no matter what anyone said, I still felt like I was a child of God and that I had a personal connection with him, despite what anyone else said, that there was no way, because of the things that were happening in my life, that I could not believe that God loved me. And so no matter what, excuse the noise in the background if you can hear that, I'm sorry, but no matter what anyone said, my personal connection with God made me feel loved, made me feel whole. And it did take me a while to realize that, and I knew that I was lucky to have those people surrounding me telling me that, because there are some people who don't get that. And there are some people who are raised in really strict Christian or Catholic households that sometimes they have to recover from that, literally recover from what they were taught. Because some people teach God with hate, and God is love. If it's not love, it's not of God. If it's not acceptance, it's not of God. God did not shun anyone away from his love. He sat with everyone. He spread his word and his love to anyone who would hear. And so I had to keep that paramount in my head. And now I don't have any doubts within myself. I still pray. I still go to church. I still feel his presence and his blessings. So I never worry. But when I went to high school, I went to a Catholic high school. And it was right after the year I had came out at my previous school. And so everyone was just starting to get, it was starting to feel normal. And I kind of had to start over. And I was mostly scared about going to a strict Catholic high school. Number one, being gay. Number two, being Black, which was definitely the minority. But through that time, even, I thank God that, especially from administration, I never really felt any personal attacks or that anyone was looking at me or treating me a certain way. I believe that there were a lot of people there who knew the love part of God and wanted to spread that more than the strict dogma that so many other people focus on. So I feel like being gay and being Christian you can be one and the other. You can be one without the other, and it has nothing to do with God or his connection with you. It really has to do with what people teach at a young age to people really has a lasting effect. So I feel like the more we teach love and acceptance, the easier it will all be. So I've been blessed to have been able to experience that.
So I was raised Catholic, and it's hard because when you're raised Catholic, you hear a lot of the things that Ogunde was just talking about, like all are welcome. That's like a hymn we used to sing in church, all are welcome, and everyone is accepted, and God is love, and God loves all of his children. And then you get to a certain age, a certain point in your life, and you realize that the Catholic Church that taught that didn't necessarily mean that it was okay for me to live my life the way that, that I actually feel God intended for me to live my life. And so in a way, someone like me grows up and essentially feels gaslit by their own religion, right? Like, and that in itself makes it really, really challenging to have a connection to religion, because the religion I grew up learning and absorbing and appreciating ends up being a religion that very squarely, denounces homosexuality. So it's a real challenge. I consider myself a spiritual person, but I don't consider myself a Catholic, and I don't consider myself a religious person. And that's not necessarily because of family members who are also Catholic, or teachers that I had from kindergarten through 8th grade, who were wonderful people and who were teaching those messages of acceptance. It has to do with the Catholic Church, the doctrine, right? And meanwhile, may I pause to remind you that there have been thousands and thousands of Catholic priests who have been accused of assaulting, young children in the church. So then again, you feel like, so I spent my whole childhood thinking that the men who wear the white collar are like the closest I could get to having a relationship or a conversation with God, other than being alone with my thoughts and my prayers and having that relationship with God. They were like next in line. Like it's like the Pope, and then it's like whoever was the pastor of my Catholic church, So you grow up with this fear almost, and that's again a gaslighting of sorts. It's sort of you feel sabotaged because then you grow up and you learn sort of what's going on with those people who were supposed to be sort of higher than thou. And so that's the short answer, is that um, I feel I feel really, really lucky that my mom, my aunts, my grandmother. I just lost my last grandparent. My grandma Stella passed away in December, and I loved her so much, and my love for her grew tenfold when I came out to her, and she made it very clear, like essentially, screw the Catholic Church and whatever they say. And we're talking about a woman who went to church every Sunday, and like my dad, her son was an altar boy, like a very Roman Catholic family, and she grows into her 70s and 80s and has a grandson who says, I'm gay. And she goes, great, I don't care. And so having my mom and my parents, my siblings, my grandparents really accept me in that way, that gives me hope. But it certainly doesn't repair my relationship with my spirituality, with my religion, with my Catholic upbringing. Like that's a no-brainer. And I really, the challenge gets harder when I realize how much I really appreciate about what the Catholic Church taught me: the traditions, the family values, the love. That it was not all bad. But if you can accept all of me, then I don't have a place in your building, in your religion. And so it's hard, having grown up that way. But here I am, and I have a wonderful relationship with my Catholic friends and family, and I know it's not them
I know that it's the history of the church. And so I'll be all right.
All right, thank you for that. We have an anonymous question that I guess you guys kind of answered already, but I will read it still in case anybody wants to add anything, or maybe give examples of, like specific examples of maybe your relationship with the church or what happened to you at the church, things like that. So this person is saying, yeah, last time your artists didn't even find Jesus, they need to find God, and then they will understand that their lifestyles are sinful. The Bible says homosexuality is a sin, and so is being transgendered and other things you are trying to promote with these videos. So just any comments, or maybe if you guys have examples of people like this, like real life examples. I mean, this is obviously a real life example, but somebody's asking it anonymously. But maybe you could share or like have words of wisdom for this person, because hopefully they're open for a conversation here because they are asking a question. Take it away.
Oh boy. I'm happy to continue my thoughts because I'll tell a very quick personal story. I was a sophomore in college, junior in college, and I was working for 2 years as a music director of a Presbyterian church. And in that position, I grew to really love the people I was working with. I had a little choir, a little praise band, and at that point I considered myself a Christian and was really like loving that job. And then the pastor of that church asked me to coffee right around Easter. So I thought like, oh, we're probably gonna have a meeting and talk about like Easter services and whatnot and plan some things. And he said, in a turn of events, he said, I've actually asked you to coffee today because it has come to the attention of the elders of the church that your Facebook profile shows a preference for men. And as you know, quote unquote, as you know, the Bible says, et cetera, you can fill in the gaps. Being gay is a sin, and we judge the sin, not the sinner. That's another one you'll hear a lot of the time. And so we want to help you, is essentially what this pastor said. We want to pray with you, and we want to help you through this. And if you're not willing to do that, then we're going to ask you to leave. Actually, ask you to resign was the wording. So very long story, very short. I learned so much in the course of a week because I said, I don't have an answer for you right now. The smartest thing I ever did was say, I need a moment to process all of what you just said to me, so I will get back to you, as opposed to just saying, I quit. So what's hilarious is this was a Presbyterian church. I went literally down the street to another Presbyterian church where there was an openly lesbian pastor. Odd, right? And I said, help, I need help. I have worked at a Presbyterian church for 2 years, and they're telling me that they don't accept gay people, and I need to be prayed upon or leave the church. And I came to the right person, right? And she said, yes, you did. She said, I urge you to write a letter, write a testimony about your life as being a gay person and a Christian. And she said, the only real way that you're going to look back and be proud of what you did is to stand up at Sunday service and tell the people of the church why you are leaving, and that they can pick up a copy of your testimony in the lobby. So I felt like I was going to vomit immediately, right? Like, wow, like the church is the place that you sit or you stand or you kneel and you clasp your hands and you shut up and you sing the songs and you do what you're told. And I'm going to literally stop a service before people leave and announce that I'm leaving. And that's exactly what I did. I had 12 college friends and professors come and sit in the back of the church. And mind you, they were from the Eastman School of Music. So the singing in that congregation on my final Sunday at that church was like some of the best singing they'd ever heard. And I nervously grabbed the microphone as we were just about to start the final hymn or the final song. And I announced that I would be leaving the church, and that it's because the elders of this church approached me because they found out I'm gay. And I actually said the word gay. I didn't say show a preference for men on my Facebook profile like the pastor said. I said they don't like that I'm gay and they think that it's, you know, it's wrong. So essentially then we, first of all, hugs and a line of people to hug me and crying and tears because they don't feel that that is fair and that is not what they believe, but that is what the elders of this church decided to sort of go how they wanted to go about it. And so then we sat down and had this very awkward conversation between the elders of the church, myself, my college professor who came and really supported me and gave me some words that I didn't really have at the time, and the congregation. We sat down right after the service, and that is where the cherry picking of Bible verses happens, right? Folks really love to pull from Leviticus and say, you know, well, it says right here that, you know, a man who lies with another man is an abomination. And to this person who is asking this question, you know, who you, Julia, are very optimistic and you say, hopefully they're here ready to listen and maybe we can, you know, have words of wisdom for them. It doesn't sound like a person who whose ears are open and someone who is coming to the conversation ready to learn and perhaps change. But, you know, this question is not old and the comments about the Bible being weaponized are not new, right? It's like, it's an age old thing. And so to that person, I would say, you know, there are 859 verses in the book of Leviticus, and they state things like you can't eat shellfish, you can't tattoo your body, you're not allowed to eat pork, you're not allowed to gossip, you're not allowed to have clothing that's made of more than one fabric, more than one material. I mean, crazy things. You can't be a farmer and plant more than one seed in your field. So like people who are growing corn and spinach apparently are going to hell. Like, you know, it's a lot to take in. And you go, so why are we able to cherry pick one of those verses? And Christians are living their lives completely oblivious to the other 858 verses in that book. And so that's just a ridiculous claim, right? We live in a world where a religion has to evolve with humanity, and Christians have outgrown all of the verses of the book of Leviticus. However, when it's convenient for them to pull the gay verse in to say, you're going to hell, your life is an abomination, like it's laughable, right? Because it doesn't hold up. It just doesn't hold up in a conversation of rationale, right? So I had a lot of experience dealing with that situation in my life, and I'm really grateful that I did, because now I'm a grown man with the words to explain exactly why that is crazy, you know. And one more thought is like, you know, well, gay people are, you know, pedophiles and they shouldn't be able to get married because they're just all going to end up divorced because they can't handle monogamy. And you go, and what is the divorce rate like among straight couples? So again, like we have these conversations that have finally started to level out a little bit, but of course there's always going to be a couple people, right, who feel that they know better. But you look at the world and you see that it's just not as simple as, you know, the gay people are bad and the straight people are great, because you go, okay, well, I can think of a million reasons why, you know, I see gay people in my life in loving marriages who are raising children and teaching them love and acceptance in the way that a lot of straight people could be teaching their children the same thing. So that's kind of long-winded, but that's my life experience with that topic. So thanks for listening.
Well said. I guess just to kind of add on to that, I would just kind of, I guess, urge people who are kind of questioning, like, how do I come to terms with, like, there's these specific Bible verses that say this specific thing, but like it just doesn't seem right or whatever, you know, or like how can people, you know, excuse this? And I would just say, just look into the overall history of the Bible. Like that's really what did it for me, was finding, because like biblical scholars, there's a lot of things that biblical scholars have figured out about the Bible that you don't learn about in Sunday school and that your priest doesn't tell you about. Like even though there are priests that have gone to like Bible school, like actual like you know, they know the history of the Bible, they don't tell you these kinds of things about how there's all these different versions of the Bible, there's all these different books that didn't make it into the Bible. There's parts of the Bible that were taken out because they didn't fit the kind of narrative that the people who were putting together wanted to make. And it's like, once you kind of start to see that the Bible isn't like, God didn't come down and be like, oh, you know, like, here's my word. It's like, it's literally just like a bunch of like things that were slapped together, and some pieces were torn out. And it's like, I think that makes it easier to kind of see like, oh, I guess that, you know, that part about eating shrimp, that doesn't really make sense. Like, why would that be a sin? You know, things like that. Like, I think a lot of people who are ignorant about like how the Bible was made and stuff, and like what made it into the book, have a hard, that's why they have a hard time, like, oh well, this is like, it's whatever's in the Bible is true. And it's like, most of the time those people, they go to church like every Sunday, and they might be very involved in their church, but the church's job isn't to teach you the history of the Bible. It's to teach you how to keep your faith. And those are two very different things. So that's my advice, you know, to anybody who's like having that legitimate question of like, you know, how do I deal with these things that are literally written out in the Bible? How am I supposed to believe that that's not the word of God?
I think Frankie and Tom both got this point across very well. But so I feel like all I need to say to this person is, if you're telling me to go to church, yet when I get to the door, the first thing you do is damn me the hell, then I'm not going to your church. I'm not going to the place where you worship, because we don't worship the same God. We don't have the same understanding of his unconditional love, which the Bible talks about more than anything else, which in its commandments, love thy neighbor, like, period. Unconditional love is what God teaches. So I feel like you need to go to a different church, or you need to open your heart and your mind to more than just what you've been taught. Because I'm sure that person is hiding some demons that they can't come to terms with, and therefore they project that onto other people. And it's kind of what you're doing as well.
Right. And Ogunde, I would say too, like the whole thing about, you know, let he among us who's free of sin cast the first stone. It's like, sometimes I wonder, like, why does my life matter so much to you? Like, why do you care? Like, it doesn't affect you at all. And so why are you throwing stones when clearly, like, let us not look into your life, because I'm not interested in looking into your life. Like, you live your life, I can live mine. I'm a loving, kind person, and you are, whoever's asking this question, I'm sure there are ways in your life in which you are a kind and loving person. Why are you bothering to spend energy throwing stones over here when it just really, my life doesn't have to affect you?
All right, thank you, everyone. We have a comment from Andres, I guess, relating to the Bible. Let's not forget that it has been proven that the Bible has been altered over thousands of years, but it does state that God loves all his children, but does not approve of any hate towards one another. I guess that's a great add-on to what you guys said so far. Also, people who are watching, I think we had a minor internet disconnectivity issue. So hopefully people are able to reconnect and watch live again. I see some people are reconnecting now. But for those who got disconnected from our video, I did get a few anonymous questions as we were talking. So no need to resend those. We'll answer those in the order they came in. So the next question, I guess it's specifically for Franky. but maybe Ogunde and Tom can comment on this too, because there's a couple of questions here. So Nico is asking, Franky, are you still doing visual arts or design? And how do those inform dance? And how does dance inform those? Any upcoming performances? So the part where I thought maybe Tom and Ogunde could also contribute is if you have any upcoming performances. Theaters are closed, so we're not performing on stage, but if anybody has any virtual things coming up, feel free to mention those.
Nico knows me from before because I actually have a BFA in fine arts. So I used to be a visual artist before I decided to pursue dance. And my visual, like when I was an artist, it was actually like heavily informed by like my experiences with like, you know, the Bible, homosexuality, and you know the kind of teachings or whatever about all that. But now that I kind of transitioned to like dance, I'm kind of just trying out something different, I guess. Um, like I said, I really like ballet in particular because of the like ephemeral qualities of it, and that did kind of tie in with what I was doing visually. I really liked tying in like mythology, like unicorns and fairies, because they're like tied to the stereotype of a gay person, you know. Um, and it's like now I'm a ballet dancer and I get to be those things on stage. I get to be a fairy. um, but no new performances yet. I'm doing burlesque with Bendy Man's Boylesque. We have 2 performances a month online. We actually just had one last week, but it's a little bit more risque than the video that you guys saw me do today. So maybe I'll like comment on their on the Facebook Live their page or something.
We're like, nope, no work to be had. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm doing a couple of concerts. I like theaters that are able to do like socially distanced concerts outside. So I'll be doing one with a theater in Michigan at the beginning of August, and then another one at Court Theater on the south side of Chicago in September. But you know, there's no theater right now. It's just way too complicated, the guidelines of reopening while also following all the CDC, you know, requirements, plus all of the unions that are involved in the theater world and their requirements. So yeah, it's a very, very quiet time of reflection, and you know, it's pretty disheartening sometimes. Just like we just want to get back to work, and we just don't have the option right now. But I did a string of virtual concerts with my one of my performance partners, Mariah Grandy, through May and June, and so maybe we'll, you know, start some of that back up as this thing goes on. But yeah, there's nothing that exciting to announce right now.
Same. I'm actually going into my senior year, and we'll be doing casted in my last show. We're still working out the logistics, trying to maybe let in just a fraction of the audience, but that's in October at Ball State University. If you follow me, I usually give updates on that, and we'll be giving updates on how we will be going about doing that performance. I am in the Children's Hour. I'm also in a few other groups that will have performances coming up when we're able to open back up. So please keep your eyes out for a cabaret group that me and my friends put together ourselves called Broadway-esque. We had one performance 2 years ago, and we'll be doing another one in upcoming time, hopefully when everything gets back great.
All right, so if you guys want to have links to any of those performances, can you put them in comments in case people are interested in tuning in? Because all three of you had fabulous performances today, so I'm sure people want to see more. And Nico was saying, fairies and unicorns. Yes, I love digital performances. Thank you, Nico. Now, we had another anonymous question while the artists are putting their links in comments. I'll ask this one. This one is not as nice, so bear with me. Here, let's start with this one. There's a couple that are not as nice. Okay, give examples of people being homophobic to you. Like, I bet no one even has good examples because it's all, quotation marks, victim mentality. So pretty much if you can give examples of people being assholes to you to prove to these people that homophobic people exist. That's how I'm reading it.
Oh, God, like every day. I mean, seriously, I'm sure, Franky, you can go ahead, but I'm just gonna say, like, when's the last time that you were this person who's asking this question was like riding their bike down the street and got called a faggot? Like, I'm telling you, it is like a daily occurrence. It's crazy to me. I mean, people even just looking at you funny if you're, you know, wearing a tank top that goes too low, or like, I mean, it's just ridiculous. So that person lives in a bubble and doesn't want to deal with the fact that there is a race problem, that there is a sexism problem, that there is a homophobia problem in the country. But like, I mean, just look at what our president and his administration is trying to do to gay and trans rights, and you will see like the highest form of homophobia and racism, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, in the world. Well, maybe not the world. There are some other countries who are really effed up right now too, but like, it's happening right here, folks. So it's still very real.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, like, literally my whole story was just like examples of all the homophobia that I've faced from my own family, and from institutions. Like, there was literally institutions. I gave you the example of Exodus International, which is like, these are entire organizations that are, their entire purpose is to tear gay people down, to tell them that they shouldn't exist, and that there's something wrong with them for being the way they are. So yeah, and I mean, like, what more examples do you need than a literal government agency that is yeah, trying to take rights away from people based on, you know, who they are, because based on their identity.
I just want to say first and foremost that I think it is very unfair and honestly ignorant to say if every single person in this community does not face a certain type of homophobia or, you know, endangerment to their lives, that then makes it so that no one does. Because let's say one of the three of us may not have experienced homophobia to such a degree that doesn't mean that takes away from the thousands of others, the hundreds of thousands of others, the millions of others that have been homeless, that have been, you know, denied all these things in their lives. Even though each of us can say that, for you to want to discredit what we as a community go through, because if one of us experienced, then any number one of us can experience it from any number of people. But if you really want to get down to it, I can give you a list of all the times through my life where personally, from person to person, I've been discriminated against. I've literally been told that I could not see my best friend anymore once their family found out that I was gay. I was denied in front of my peers and my principal when they had a blood drive, that I was denied being able to give blood because they will take your blood if you're gay. Even though they test all the blood for all the diseases, just because I'm gay does not mean that I have AIDS. but that has not been changed. Gay people in many states are not able to adopt. There's such a problem going on in the world with pro-life, pro-choice, but when those who may have the choice to give their children up for adoption, you're taking away opportunities from people who can give loving, caring homes to, just because of their sexual preference. So just because every day when I walk out the door, I'm not getting beat up or yelled a faggot to every day, does not discredit what I or my brothers or sister go through in my community. So you tried that.
All right, well, since we're on the topic of horrible questions, here is one more. I guess it's more of a comment than a question, but I'm sure you guys have things to say about that comment. These days, you've got to be gay, black, and disabled to get the best privileges. Like, I lost a job to a gay black man just because they wanted a diversity hire. I feel like I am discriminated against as a white, straight man.
I have been in many conversations where something like this has come up, and I just want to say, when you live in a country where it is built on you have the most power if you're the whitest and the richest and the most masculine, then I feel like you have no room to complain when a company makes a point to go out of the way to do what thousands of others would not. I feel like, I'm sorry that you feel like you may have been discriminated against, but welcome to the club. Welcome to feeling like what it is to not get what you want when you want it. Just because that person probably was more qualified than you. But what did you see? You only saw that they were black and that they were gay and that they were getting something that you didn't, which is something that they see every single day. Literally. How many white actors are on TV that couldn't do the job justice as a black person would, but got it because they are what the media wants to put out? White, straight, affluent. And if you're not one of those things, then you're pushed to the background. And I think it's very ignorant and insensitive to not see when people are trying to make a change of that. Yes, you may not have gotten that position, but just because someone else got a piece of the pie doesn't mean there's less for you. Get a different pie. Go somewhere else, mama. Like, sorry.
Yeah, that's right. Because they can walk to hundreds of other interviews where black people would not be hired because of people who are doing the hiring, having inherent racism. So that is, that's like a sorry about it. And you know what? How long have we been listening to, black people in this country crying out because of discrimination in the workplace, at a gas station, in a nightclub, anywhere you go. So it's like the whole reverse racism thing is like a card you, white person with the comment, can continue to cry out about, but no one's gonna feel bad for you because your race in this country is considered superior by way too many people. And your people, your race has not suffered, 400 years of slavery and oppression. So you can think that you have a voice in that conversation, but it's just like a really big, too bad, sorry that you finally are dealing with a workplace that is trying to move forward and push progress in terms of equity, right? And so you can cry about it, or you can just put on your nice suit and go to another interview, because chances are you will be hired and you need to just get over it.
And honestly, let's talk about, yes, you may have been denied that job, but imagine how many different jobs that person was denied that finally, who walked in that door well, I'm seeing I'm the only Black person in the room right now. And I may not be hired because really aren't any other Black people here. But because that company is trying to take strides in diversifying their workplace, because not everyone coming in there or being serviced by that business is going to be the same race. And believe it or not, when you walk in a room and you see, oh, there are so many people who look just like me, you feel more comfortable. But I can tell you that person is going to go into work, notice they're the only Black person in the room, get treated a certain way because they're the only Black person in the room, and have to endure conversations that you would not have to endure if you got into that position. I go to a PWI. For most of my life, I have been the only Black person in the room. And it doesn't always feel good, but at least we're getting in the room finally. Like, there are so many people who have been denied the position that I may be in, but it is my responsibility to now, lost my train of thought, but it's my responsibility to now pioneer this diversity and to show up and show out for my community, because there's no one else who's able to do it. Come on.
Just to kind of add on to that, I guess, just like to point out, like Ogunde said, like there's this really blatant assumption that just because that person was Black and gay, that means they're not better than you at that job. You know, like why, like you're specifically pointing out these factors that have nothing to do with their like quality of work, you know? So it's like, I would just kind of point that out about like, there's a very blatant assumption that you're making. And even if the company specifically said and sent out a statement that, hey, we're gonna try to focus more on diversity, that doesn't mean that these people that they're gonna be hiring are gonna be worse at the job than a white straight man. You know, like maybe they're just finally deciding to tap into all this talent and all this hard work that has been untapped because of, you know, oh, well, we should just, you know, hire this guy. His name's Mike, you know, whatever. So let's just add him. Because there, I mean, statistically speaking, if you want to talk about like, you know, logistics, there's been studies that show that just based on the name on your resume, white people or people with a white sounding name are more likely to get hired than someone with an ethnic name. So,
which is why I'm saying, welcome to what it feels like, even though your reasonings are not, it's not valid. Welcome to what it feels like to be discriminated against. Since you feel discriminated against, here you are, because welcome to what that person has experienced through their whole lives. And the one moment where they're able to probably is more qualified than you, but all you can see is their color and their sexual preference, which is the last thing that is probably going to come up in that workspace and should not come up in that workspace, because they're there to do a job and get that job done. And they probably will with a better attitude and therefore make a better work environment than you would, because you seem very, there's just something wrong. It seems like there's something very wrong.
Yeah, and also I would add to that and say, you know, if you're looking at, because we're assuming that the person who was hired is more qualified, but to this person writing in this comment, I would say, hey, there's an okay chance that that person might not be totally an equal level hire to you, and you in that moment should try to check your privilege and realize that the reason why a person of color might not have the same qualifications as you is because people of color are not afforded the same opportunities as white people in this country. So they may not have been able to get accepted to or be able to get enough financial aid to attend a university, an institution where they could get a degree that you had or whatever. But here's the deal, is like, hop on the train of knowing that like the future is that it's going to be a more diverse workplace, and don't be the guy who people don't want to hire because you're that white guy with like a very narrow mind, because like you're stuck in a time capsule of the past, and we're moving forward. So you either hop on the train and figure out how to coexist and deal with the failure and deal with the not getting the job every once in a while, or you're going to get left behind because no one's going to want to work with you. They would rather work with a nicer person who has potential and maybe not as many degrees as you, but like they're going to get there and they're going to do the job really well, than to work with an asshole like you. Sorry, but that's what it is.
Tom, you said it. You're an asshole. Sorry. That's what you
Sorry.
said.
Sorry, not sorry.
All right, guys who are watching, we are almost wrapping up at this point because it's almost been 2 hours. We always try to not keep our artists for too long because everybody needs their rest. So if anybody has any more questions, make sure to ask them now. I just saw that our watch numbers are climbing back up again. So those who are joining right now, if you have any questions at all, put them down in the comments right now. If we can't answer all of them tonight, we're having another stream on Monday, and that stream will feature all Black artists. So all the questions that we've got some questions about the Black community, and those questions we'll leave for next Monday just because all of the artists will be Black, and I'm sure they'll all be able to comment on those. So tune in on Monday, and like I said earlier, that'll be an intergenerational stream. So we will have Mr. Joel Hall, for those who dance, you probably know him. And he is actually 71 or 72 years old, I believe. This stream was his idea, the intergenerational stream. So he will be there, and a couple other people from Generation X will be there. Because so far we've been featuring all of us like 20 somethings or 20 to 30 years old. So it's good to hear from somebody who, you know, is a little bit older maybe and has experiences from like 50 years ago and could tell us how it was for them as a gay Black man back then. So all those questions, we'll save them for next stream. So if you have anything else to ask, just put them down in the comments. We have a couple more questions that came in and also a couple that came in before the stream. So we'll go into those. Oh, actually, this one has to do with what you guys touched upon already. I guess jobs, getting jobs. But this one is specifically people of color representation in the arts. And well, maybe I was gonna say maybe touch on also LGBTQIA community as well. So maybe, I don't know, Ogunde, you could maybe lead that, and Tom, because you are an actor, but also you, I guess, were on the other side of the table, so you can also maybe share your experience. And Franky, if you can share maybe the experience from dance, like if you go to auditions, how many people of color you see, stuff like that. All right, take it away.
I'm sorry, can you repeat what that was? I was posting my link in the comments.
Well, this one is that, this one was on the topic of people of color representation in the arts. So getting jobs, but in the arts, I guess theater, dance, whatever.
Most of my audition experience has been at Ball State, and one thing that I'm actually on a directed group now to help increase the population of people of color at that school. But it's one thing that you touched on. A lot of, especially those interested in the arts, don't have or don't come from affluent families who can have the training and the resources even to go to a dance studio or to get voice lessons or to, you know, get a devoted acting class or acting group together. I know growing up, I watched a lot of YouTube videos, learned a lot of like Lady Gaga music videos just to get my dance out. And, you know, I wanted to learn how to tap, and I would watch all these classes on YouTube because when I asked for dance classes, I got karate. So it was a lot of realizing that there are a lot of people who have a fire and a passion who just don't get that chance, and therefore don't get the amount of courage that it's needed to go out and do an audition and give your all. But the one audition that I did go to outside of school was in Chicago, and they were actually doing Aladdin and The Lion King. So there just so happened to be a lot of people of color there, which was very inspirational for me because I saw so much talent, so many people going out, and the choreographer that they had come in for Lion King was this wonderful, powerful Black woman who was ready to go, getting it together. And the men there were a lot of gay men too. So I just felt like seen and felt like that there is a possibility of a future because all these men are coming out and they are amazing. And it was definitely lit a fire of passion in me that I want to be able to give those coming up, because being able to look on a stage and see yourself is where the spark is. And if you go your whole life seeing people that don't look like you, that don't act like you, you'll never really feel like you can get there. Representation is so important. And so that's one thing at Ball State that we're really trying to get up. But I mean, we're in Muncie, Indiana. I wouldn't have known about the Ball State Theater Department if it wasn't for my theater director at Andrean, who was white. And I was one of the 2 Black people let into the BFA at that time. So it's coming to realize we have to start earlier and reaching out to those areas where there's so much raw talent that's not given the same chance as those and others who state and whose school funds so much to the point where you have it's literally at your fingertips. So I think that's definitely something that we need to get onto.
So, as a working professional music director, I am like behind the table a lot, and I'm a part of a lot of conversations. And so I would preface my response by saying I realize and recognize my privilege in the industry, and I know that in no small way I've contributed to just in the theater world, the systemic, racist behavior and representation shortcomings. Absolutely, I own that. And I would say, in response to sort of what Ogunde was just touching on, it's more than, in my mind, a problem with representation on the stage, because actually, in some ways, that area of representation might be the best that the theater is doing right now. Like, it's not where it should be and it's not satisfactory, but that is where you can see the most color and diversity in a theatrical institution. When you start to look behind the table at the creative teams, when you start to look at the designers, then when you go into the box office or into the offices of the theater, when you talk about company management and executive directors and artistic directors and all of that umbrella, so often right now is just a bunch of white people. And so it's not just about the little Black boys and girls who go to see the theater, who need to see people that look like them up on the stage. It's also that when those Black actors or those Latinx actors show up to the rehearsal room and they do the big round robin of introductions of that theater company, the actors, the designers, everyone that's working on the production, that they should see plenty of people in that circle that are not just the actors that look like them, so that we can really start to create an atmosphere where when a person is an employee of a theater company for a certain stretch of time, they feel safe and they feel comfortable going to so-and-so's office to tell them about a problem, or going to this person to talk to them about a little microaggression that happened that they don't feel comfortable going to the white artistic director about, but they would love to talk to the associate artistic director who is a person of color. I mean, that's just an example of how I think the future of the theater is going to start to look, especially now with the in the wake of the Black Lives Matter movement really picking up steam. Theater artists, Black theater artists, are crying out for equity, and it's not diversity and inclusion. It's not us and them and let's invite them into our world so it's more diverse. It's about a future where there is equity, where you look around the room and it is equal parts, right? Or that the Black lead in the show is making just as much money as the white lead in the show, that it's equitable, not just about including them in the work, but making sure that their involvement in the work is equitable. And there's so much work to be done. We're just not there. And we've learned that big time. When I say we, I would speak for white theater artists, have learned in the last couple of months, we're nowhere near where we need to be. So there's a lot of work to be done. But that in my dreams is like where we're headed, is equity across the board.
I honestly don't have much to say because, like I said, I lived in the border area I've lived there my whole life. But like I recently barely started like branching out to other forms of dance. And in the company, I was part of a ballet company in El Paso. And I mean, there it was like really diverse actually. Like we had, one of my favorite memories is what do you call it, Nutcracker. Our principal dancer is like this dark-skinned Mexican girl, and that year we had a dark-skinned guy that came in to dance with her. And so it was like, when you see ballets on the internet, they're usually always white. But then I was like, wow, like when I saw them on stage, it was like these two beautiful, dark-skinned dancers who were the leads in this like production. So that's kind of like the things that always stand out to me. That it's like you don't really realize the lack of diversity there is in certain fields until you see it, until you see the diversity actually there. And it's like, oh wow, like all these ballets and all these other productions that I've been watching, like everybody's white. So yeah, I guess if I would just, yeah, add that we have to kind of start keeping an eye on those things and noticing like, there's an awful lot of white people in this room, like you said, like managing this or, in this production.
All right, thank you for that. And for those who sent in questions, once again, no worries that you're sending them anonymously, but some of the questions I got are completely nice and you could have posted them publicly, that's okay. But once again, we understand that people, especially if you don't know any of us, we understand that you maybe don't want to go public with those questions. But most of these questions, unfortunately, we'll have to leave until our next stream. Most of them do have to do with Black artists or experiences of Black people anyway. So I think if you tune in on Monday, the 27th, which is in less than a week, also at 7 p.m. on this page, we'll address some of those questions as well. But we do have one last thing that we wanted to discuss. One of the things we've discussed before this stream. So I believe it was Tom, you wanted to talk about this. So we've got, since we're on hot topics today, coronavirus versus HIV. And I think, Tom, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So if you want to start that conversation, and then if Franky and Ogunde want to add anything, go ahead.
Wow, sure. I feel like pressure now. No, I just hope that straight people who are watching sort of the coronavirus, the way that our country is handling the coronavirus, well, so loaded because like we're not really handling it, are we? At least from like the presidential and his administration standpoint. Like just was it yesterday? He says that they're devising a plan, you know, and it's like, oh, now like 3 months in, you're devising a plan, or like 6 months after you heard that it was a thing, like now you're devising a plan. So I'm not sure that in that regard, this is we're really like nailing our response. However, I just hope that people realize like there's such a stigma around the letters HIV, right, and the word AIDS that like comes from the way that the United States of America handled, or in more of a sense, didn't handle the HIV epidemic at the time in the 80s and the 90s, right? It was not spoken about. It was hush hush. It was considered the gay disease. So, you know, there were like hyper Christians who were saying, great, like let it kill all the gay people. Like it was not a universal healthcare crisis in the way that it should have been, in the way that coronavirus is being treated, right? It's very clearly was not spoken on television for years because of the gay factor, right? If it was a virus that was infecting, much like coronavirus, gay, straight, black, white, brown, all people, right? In the same way, in the same numbers, we would have seen a different response to that disease. And so I just urge people to like check their privilege, right, in terms of their straightness, and how like everyone jumps on this corona thing, like we're being told to stay at home, and like can we just acknowledge the inequity there in terms of how we dealt with HIV versus how we dealt with the coronavirus. That's the thought there.
And from that, I would urge people to watch this movie called The Band, and The Band Played On. That is a great movie that kind of narrates what America was like during the AIDS crisis, and shows how the CDC and how a lot of private and public health affiliations had to fight their way to try to even get testing out. They had to rent a hotel room in the city and themselves try to get around the gay community. Come get tested. Don't listen to what it's being, said on the news. Come get tested. Use protection. It was literally our community trying to save ourselves. There was no way to widespread get all the information out like we are now, which, like Tom was saying, just highlights where America is right now when it comes to not only thinking that gay, black, Latinx people can get this disease, but anybody, any man, woman, or child can get this. And now there's a huge, wave of most people trying to protect themselves, other people still being very delusional in their thinking that they're safe from this. But yeah. And The Band Played On. Great movie.
Yes, and also as long as we're mentioning titles of things, watch the documentary How to Survive a Plague, which is all about how the gay community in New York, sort of the organization ACT UP, started to literally communicate with the government and say, we need a vaccine, we need trials, we need drugs, right? And people were, essentially nurses that would go to pay their final respects to people. This is also was written about in Larry Kramer's play The Normal Heart, like would go to the deathbed of people dying of AIDS, and they would take all of their remaining medication to give it to other people in need who were still alive, because healthcare and because access to drugs and because the slow pace at which the administration was trying to handle the epidemic was not satisfactory. So there's just like a million stories about how gay people really, really struggled to, like Ogunde said, like save their lives, save each other. And it's How to Survive a Plague is a great documentary with a lot of footage of sort of amazing, I mean, just like crazy footage and information on how it all unfolded.
I think talking about, like how the straights and the gays are kind of treating this differently, I do kind of feel like there is a difference, because I feel like for gay people it's like, oh, okay, there's this new virus we have to worry about. All right, and like we just, add on to our regular precautions, like, okay, take your prep in the morning and wear a mask when you go out and wash your hands. Whereas I definitely feel like for straight people, it's like, it's easier for them because they've never had to worry about any kind of, virus or whatever that specifically targets your demographic. It's easier for them to swallow all this gaslighting that's coming out of like right-wing, talking heads and from the literal president. It's like, oh, you don't have to worry about it. Okay, I'm not gonna worry about it. Whereas it's like for gay people, it's like, like, like I know so many gay people that are like, every single time that the World Health Organization sends out something new, they already know about it, and it's like, there's a lot of straight people that are just so like, nonchalant about this. And it's like, wow, like, talk about your privilege showing, like, wow, you've never had to worry about anything like this, huh? If anything, I would say, though, I feel like there's some gay people that are taking it too lightly. Like, I feel like there's some people that it's like, oh, I might die from AIDS, I might die from COVID, whatever, and it's like, that side of the gay community is the side that worries me. And then I'm like, I think some of you do need to take it a little more seriously. That's all that's all I gotta say.
One more thing I wanted to say while we're throwing out titles. I don't know if you all realize, but behind Julia is a new LGBTQIA flag that also has trans visibility. And I think that is very important nowadays. If you are not educating yourself, I think you need to educate yourself on the problems and the struggles that the trans community, especially trans people of color, are going through. Something that I implore everyone to see in their lifetime on Netflix right now, Pose by Ryan Murphy, and it is incredible. It is one of the first publications of gay, trans, people of color, women being put in a light in order to educate and spread love and support in a fabulous, fierce way. You will love it. You will cry. You will laugh. It is everything. Please go watch that show.
So I saw, Ogunde, you but you commented with the movie name. So if you guys all could put the suggestions for these educational things down there, because people usually love those. And we've also, if you go on our event page, we've posted a few educational resources and links there as well. But the resources that the artists mentioned today will be available in comments if you want to scroll down and look for them. All right. Oh, well, before I forget, there's one question, or not question, a comment from Andres. And he's saying, you guys are so beautiful and so talented. Keep your heads up, stay strong, and continue to do amazing things. A bunch of rainbow hearts. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
We had some rough questions today, and thank you so much, everybody, for answering those questions. I like me reading the questions. I try to like not read them as myself. I literally have no like intonation or anything because I don't want them to relate to me in any way. Like, let me just read this like a robot because I don't want it sounding like I'm literally asking this question. Can't believe I'm reading this. But yeah, I can't believe you guys answered all that and you weren't even like angry or attacking anybody. I totally would be because I can't. This is why I'm hosting these things and not answering questions because I'd be really angry. So thank you so much, you guys. And everybody who's watching, once again, our next stream is on Monday. Tune in for some intergenerational things and bring your questions. It'll be super fun. We'll be featuring videos and amazing artists and answering some of the questions we didn't get to answer this time. And of course, follow all the artists on social media. I think all of three of you guys put down the links, but if you want to put down any other links or anything, feel free to do so. Let's have all the artists, if you guys have some closing remarks or anything to say, go ahead. And everybody who's watching, thank you so much for watching, and tune in again next Monday.
Oh, sure. Thanks. I would just say thank you to Julia, obviously as a, a curator of these conversations. It's amazing that you're doing it. And also to folks out there, like, the questions are not that hard I'll speak for myself, but I feel like I'm in good company too. Like, these are not new questions that come up, right? We deal with them every day because we are who we are, and we live with that. But I would just say, like, you know what? I'm happier when people are asking the questions, because that's how progress is going to be made. So make yourself uncomfortable, ask the question, and be okay falling into a little bit of a hole where you say something inappropriate or you make a mistake or you misstep, because that's better than not asking the question at all. And like, most people are interested in genuine conversation, like we were tonight. That's how we're going to move forward to a place where, trans people and gay people, all queer people, are just like a part of society, and they contribute in positive ways, just like straight people. And so ask the questions, don't leave them unsaid. I appreciate that. And thanks for watching.
I wanted to definitely thank you, Julia, for inviting us to this and using your voice to build a platform to give a voice to others who may not have that opportunity. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to meet these two incredible artists who I will continue to follow. And I'm so glad that I've gotten to know. I feel like it's so important to have a platform where you can have tough conversations and get your thoughts out there, because none of us are perfect. And you don't want anything that's festering in your mind, or you don't want to get trapped in a bubble of just hearing one opinion, because once you open yourself to that and to be taught to have a conversation, to not always be right, you will have a time to look at yourself and change those preconceived notions that may have been taught to you. So thank you, Julia, for giving this platform and allowing people, even anonymously, to hopefully this conversation sticks with you, and that this allows you to want to have those tough conversations with your family and your friends. If you feel like you are around people who may have homophobic or transphobic or xenophobic ideals, to open themselves up to conversations, and don't be afraid to bring it up, and let what's right be right and wrong be wrong.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, Julia. This was, I know I like spilled all of the like tragic dark, my tragic dark story, but I think it's really important to still talk about these things, because sometimes I feel like once we reach certain points, we just like forget about everything that we've gone through. Because it's like, okay, gay rights passed, and it's like now it's like we never talk about homophobia anymore, because so many people have moved past that, but that still exists and it still affects a lot of us. And it's like, we have to keep like pushing through all these things. And especially, I feel like especially now that trans rights have become the focus alongside like police brutality, those of us who have gone through other forms of marginalization, we had to be there for those who are like in the spotlight right now, facing it the hardest. So thank you so much for having these conversations with Julia, and for, like everyone else said, spotlighting these kinds of important issues.
All right, well, now I feel humbled. You guys are like thanking me, but I should be thanking you. We actually had somebody message me right now saying that they're upset they missed the whole thing because I guess they were joining from California. So the time difference, we're so sorry. I should have mentioned the time because I think I only did it in CDT and EST time zones. So next time I'll make sure to mention more time zones. But if you're just joining and you had questions, or if you'd like to watch the video, it's going to be available on this page, so you can still watch. Most views come after the live streams anyway, so feel free to watch, comment. All the artist information is on there if you'd like to contact them. Also, I'd like to say that we raised $50 today for our charity. Thank you everybody for donating. And you will still be able to donate after the video is done if anybody wants to. The link will still be there. And oh, Adam is saying hello, so proud of Ogunde and Julia. Well, thank you for being proud of me. I didn't really do anything, but Ogunde. This is our hunchback family. This show is coming up so much. I wish I should probably do a performance of that at some point. Ogunde, you should have done a hunchback performance today, since that show came up like a lot. Well, anyway, we gotta wrap this up. So once again, thank you everybody. And yes, kisses and hugs to everybody watching, all our friends and those who don't know us. We will see you on Monday for our next stream. Thank you everyone, and have a great night.